Okay, so we all know about big parties, right?
Right.
But have you ever heard of 3.5 million happening all at basically the same time?
Well, that's basically what's happening right now in India. It's wedding season over there.
It is. And that's actually a great way to kick off this deep dive today, because it's about way more than just celebrations. It's about serious money, too.
Absolutely. We're talking billions and billions of dollars.
It's incredible. And that's exactly what we're going to uncover today.
Exactly. Like the kind of impact this tradition has on everything from, like, those iconic hotels you see in movies to people who are just skilled artisans trying to make a living.
Yeah, and we're going to break down exactly how massive this all really is.
Well, just to give you an idea, the Confederation of All India Traders, or CAIT, estimates about 35 lakh weddings this season.
Okay, so for those of us who don't have lakh memorized, that translates to
3.5 million.
3.5 million weddings.
Bringing in over 50 billion US dollars.
Wow. Okay, so can you even imagine, like, forget getting married during that time. Could you imagine just trying to, like, book a hotel room?
You're talking about some of the most famous hotels in the world, too.
Right, like the Taj Mahal Palace Hotel. I mean, good luck.
It's almost impossible. Those places are booked solid, sometimes a year in advance, and the prices, well, let's just say you better be ready to spend a lot more than usual.
Yeah, I've heard like 20-30% more sometimes.
Oh, at least, sometimes even more. And that just kind of shows you how important these weddings are in India. It's not just a party. It's like woven into the entire culture.
Yeah, it's a huge commitment. It feels much bigger than what we think of as a wedding here.
Or definitely. It's family, it's tradition. It's even seen as like an economic investment in the future.
So it's kind of like a big deal.
The biggest.
Okay, so we keep saying like economic engine, but what does that actually mean? Like, where's all this money going?
Everywhere. Honestly, think about it for a second. We're talking jewelry designer, clothes, enough food to feed a small country travel. All of that is booming because of these weddings.
Okay, so break down the jewelry thing a little, because we're not talking like, just going to the mall and picking something out.
No, we're talking serious bling.
Right.
Like custom-made gold and diamond pieces that are going to be passed down for generations.
Family heirlooms.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you've got the clothes, which can be just as intricate and expensive.
Yeah.
And don't even get me started on the food.
Okay, yes, the food, because I was reading that it's not just like Indian food either. It's like a mix of everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting, actually. You'll have a wedding with like traditional Indian dishes, but then also like, pasta stations and sushi chefs. It's very international.
It sounds amazing. It's like they're bringing together these two worlds in such a cool way.
Yeah, it's very modern.
Okay, and speaking of modern, what about destination weddings? Because those are huge, right?
It's a whole industry in itself. You've got couples flying their guests to like palaces in Rajasthan or beaches in Goa.
Which means plane tickets, hotels, experiences, the whole 9 yards.
Exactly. And it's not just the big companies cashing in either. Local economies get a huge boost from this. Like, think about transportation.
Yeah.
Local craftspeople, all sorts of small businesses benefit from these destination weddings.
That's actually really cool, because it's like this really happy event is actually helping to support all these different people.
Exactly. It actually ties into this whole vocal for local initiative that's been gaining traction in India.
Local for local, what's that?
It's basically a big push to get people to support local businesses instead of always going for the big international brands. And weddings are like the perfect opportunity for that.
I love that. Okay, so we've got tradition, culture, a booming economy. What else could there possibly be?
Tech. Oh, yeah. Tech is playing a huge role in Indian weddings now. Like, we're talking a full-on tech revolution in the industry. Seriously. There are startups popping up left and right, all aimed at making weddings easier, more personalized, and even more fun.
I have to admit, I'm very intrigued. So tell me more about these wedding tech startups. What are we talking about here?
Well, imagine this. You're planning your wedding, right? But instead of running around like a crazy person, you've got an app for everything.
That does sound a lot easier than how my sister planned her wedding.
Oh, for sure. It's all about convenience. These startups are like having a wedding planner, a personal stylist, and a tech guru all rolled into one.
Okay, so give me some examples. Like, who are the big players in this wedding tech game?
So you've got Wed Me Good, which is like the ultimate wedding planning platform, vendors, venues, ideas, you name it, they've got it covered. And then there's Weddings In, which specializes in venue booking and all those little logistical details that can drive you crazy.
So basically, they take care of all the stuff you don't want to think about.
Exactly. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. There are apps for everything.
What about the clothes? Because like you were talking about before, those designer outfits can be seriously expensive.
Oh, yeah. Weddings are expensive.
Yeah, but there's an app for that too, right?
Of course there is. It's called Flyrobe, and it's basically like rent the runway, but for wedding wear.
Oh, that's genius.
Yeah.
So you can still get that amazing designer look without, having to take out a second mortgage.
Exactly. And then for couples who are on a tighter budget but still want their wedding to look amazing, there's Meragi. They offer customizable decor at really affordable prices.
See, this is what I love about technology. It's all about making things accessible to everyone.
Exactly. It's about breaking down those barriers and giving everyone the chance to have their dream wedding.
Okay, so we've got all these amazing tech solutions, but what does that tell us about how Indian couples are approaching weddings these days? Like, are they looking for convenience, personalization, or is it something more than that?
I think it's a little bit of both, honestly. These couples, they grew up with technology, right? So they're used to having things at their fingertips. But it goes beyond that. They're not afraid to embrace new ideas while still honoring their traditions.
Yeah, it seems like they're really looking for that perfect blend of old and new.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole thing so fascinating. But we should probably save that for next time.
It's amazing how tech has totally changed the way we do just about everything these days, and weddings are definitely no exception.
No kidding, especially in India. I mean, they are really embracing technology to completely transform how couples plan their big day. It's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, it really is. So we were talking about apps and stuff before the break, but what are some of the other ways tech is changing the game?
Well, one thing that's really cool is virtual wedding tours.
Virtual wedding tours? What's that?
Okay, so imagine you're planning a destination wedding in India, right?
Right.
But you're living in another country.
Right, which a lot of people are.
Exactly. So instead of having to fly all the way over there just to check out venues, you can basically do it all online now.
Oh, wow. So you're saying you can take a virtual tour of these amazing places, see the palaces in Rajasthan or those beaches in Goa.
Exactly. You can experience it all without even having to leave your couch.
That's actually pretty amazing. You can really get a feel for a place without, the time and expense of actually traveling there.
Exactly. And it's not just about convenience either. It's also about personalization.
Okay, so how does personalization come into play?
Well, have you heard of those AI-powered style assistants?
Oh, yeah. I've seen ads for those, but I've never actually tried one.
Well, basically, you just input all your preferences, your body type, your skin tone, the kind of vibe you're going for.
Okay.
And the app will actually recommend outfits and jewelry that they think would look amazing on you.
So it's like having a personal stylist, but without the actual person.
Exactly. It takes all the guesswork out of it.
That's pretty cool.
Mm.
But okay, this is all super high tech. But I also read that some of these tech companies are using their platforms to actually help preserve traditional crafts.
Oh, absolutely. There are startups popping up that are connecting couples directly with local artisans and vendors.
So it's supporting small businesses and keeping these ancient traditions alive.
Exactly. It's really cool actually, because it's this really modern technology being used to promote something that's been passed down for generations.
Yeah, it's bridging that gap between the past and the future.
Exactly. And speaking of bridging gaps, we can't forget about the role of social media in all of this.
Oh yeah, social media is the ultimate wedding planner these days.
Right. It's how couples share their entire journey, from the proposal to the engagement to every single detail of the wedding itself.
And it's not just a few photos anymore. It's live streams, behind the scenes videos, the whole 9 yards.
Exactly. It's everyone you know is basically right there with you, experiencing it all in real time.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it. You can connect with people all over the world and share these special moments with them.
It's definitely changed how we experience weddings. But it also makes me wonder, with technology constantly evolving, how else do you think it's going to shape the future of the Indian wedding industry?
That's a great question. What's next?
Well, one thing that I think we'll see more of is virtual reality.
VR headsets and stuff.
Exactly. Imagine being able to put on a headset and suddenly you're transported to a palace courtyard in India for a Sangeet ceremony.
Oh, wow. That would be incredible.
Right. It wouldn't matter where you were in the world. You could still feel like you were right there in the heart of the celebration.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
But I also wonder, with all this talk about technology, if we're in danger of like losing the human element of these events.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the warmth, the traditions, all that stuff that makes them so special.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's definitely something to be mindful of. Like, we don't want technology to overshadow the human connections that are at the heart of these celebrations.
Exactly. Technology should enhance the experience, not replace it.
100%. At the end of the day, weddings are about love, family, and two people coming together. And that's something that technology can never replace.
That's true.
Yeah.
But it's definitely going to be interesting to see how it all evolves.
No doubt. And speaking of evolving, there's one more aspect of the Indian wedding boom that we haven't even touched on yet.
You know, it's funny. We've talked about like a million different things this episode.
I know, right?
But like, it all comes back to weddings.
It always does. And I think what's really cool about this whole deep dive is that we've gone way beyond just like, you know, the pretty dresses and the fancy food.
Totally. We've really gotten into like the heart of what makes this tradition so important.
Exactly. It's about culture. It's about family. It's about like this whole economic engine that's driving India forward.
And it's about love too. Let's not forget about that.
Of course, love is the whole reason we're here.
Exactly. But, you know, one thing we haven't talked about yet is globalization.
Yeah.
Like, how is that impacting the Indian wedding scene?
Oh, that's huge. Honestly, you see it everywhere these days. Like the menus, for example.
Yeah.
You'll go to an Indian wedding now, and it's not just like, you know, traditional Indian food. It's like a fusion of everything.
Right. It's like Indian food meets like, you know, international cuisine.
Exactly. And it's not just the food either. It's
Yeah.
the clothes, the music, even the way the ceremonies are structured. It's like this really cool blend of cultures.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Like they're taking the best of both worlds and creating something totally unique.
Exactly. And I think it speaks to how interconnected the world is now. Like, people are traveling more, they're exposed to different cultures, and they're bringing those influences back home with them.
Yeah, it's like they're creating these really beautiful fusions of tradition and modernity.
Exactly. And I think that's something to celebrate. Like, it shows that tradition can evolve and adapt without losing its essence.
I love that.
Yeah.
And you know what else I love about this whole wedding boom is that it's not just about the couples getting married. It's about bringing families and communities together.
Oh, absolutely. It's like this giant celebration of love and family and tradition. And in a world that can feel really divided sometimes, it's just really beautiful to see.
Yeah, it's like this reminder that at the end of the day, we're all connected.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole thing so special.
Well said.
Great.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into India's wedding season, I have to ask, what's next?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? But if I had to guess, I'd say we're going to see even more creativity, even more innovation, and definitely even more love.
I think you're right. And you know what? I can't wait to see what the future holds for this incredible tradition.
Me too. It's a beautiful thing.
Well, that's it for our deep dive into India's incredible wedding season. Until next time.